Alright guys, today I'm going to show you how to work between Blender and After Effects. This is a super useful skill to know, being able to get 3D effects and objects into your footage, tracked into the footage, without having to use an external plugin like Element 3D, which is $100. Blender's free, and you can do a lot more. So yeah, possibilities are endless. So to start off, all you're going to need is this After Effects to Blender script. I'm going to leave this link below. It'll show you exactly how to install the script into After Effects. Extremely easy. And it'll show you how to get the script into Blender as well, which is again, super easy. So once you have followed that guide and installed the script into After Effects and Blender, all you have to do is gather your footage. We're going to right click on it and we're going to go to track and stabilize and track camera, and we'll let this run through. All right, so once your track is complete, this is what it should look like. We have all of our tracking data here, and we're just going to hover and find an area where we'd like to place our 3D object. So for me, it'll be on the ground here. I'm just going to find the spot I want, right click, and then I'm going to click Create Solid and Camera. So this will create this sort of track solid here. And if you click play, you can see what your track is looking like. So if you have decent footage here, meaning not a lot of motion blur, not too much shakiness going around, you should have a good track like this. If you're running into issues at this stage, it's probably because there's too much motion blur, the footage isn't crisp enough. So yeah, make sure you pay attention to that when you're working with your 3D track. So this is looking good. We have our track solid. Now we need to bring the track solid and the 3D camera track data into Blender. And this is super easy. Again, we're going to use that script that we installed. So we'll go up to File, go down to Scripts, and once you installed it, it should be right here. So we want to click Export Composition Data to JSON. And now you can choose if you want to only do the work area or the whole comp. I'll just do the whole comp, and then make sure if you've selected this, you unchecked Export Selected Layers Only. We want to export these three out. So we'll click Export. And then once you do that, we can fire up Blender. So in Blender, let's go ahead and delete all of this starter things here. We're going to go up to File, and again, this is after you follow the guide to add in the script to Blender. We're going to go to File, Import, and with the script in, you should see it right here. After Effects composition data converted to JSON. So find where you saved it from After Effects. So for me, it's right here. And let's take a look. So this is exactly what we have in After Effects if you just take a look here. So you have your footage, which is right here. This is the 2D footage that you're looking at. You have your track solid, which is right here. And then you have your camera. And I'll scale that up so you can see that. So you see as this moves along, this is the movement of that camera from After Effects. So all we need to do is place whatever 3D thing we want onto the track solid, and it's going to be in the exact same place in 3D space as where we put our track solid in After Effects. So before we do that, if you guys want to see the footage while you're compositing here, you can select this. You can go over to the shader editor just by clicking down here, shader editor, and drag this up, and we'll click new. And all you have to do here is drag in your footage. So if you see the base color right there, you just want to click and drag out and then release, and then type in image texture. And then you can just click open and find wherever you saved your footage. And again, this is the same footage I'm using from After Effects. Open that up. You're not going to see anything from here, and that's because we're just in the normal viewport shading. Make sure you switch over to this material view or the rendered view. So now we can see our footage, but if I click play, the footage isn't moving. So to make it a video and actually see it moving, we can just crank up the amount of frames here and then check on auto refresh. And now if I go back to my timeline, you can see now the footage is moving alongside with the camera. And if you want to be able to see the track solid through the camera, so we'll go to camera view. So you see, you can't really see the track solid like you did in After Effects. It's kind of covering it up. You can just select here, go over to the material properties, and then scroll down, and then right here where it says settings, you can change the blend mode from opaque to something like alpha hashed or alpha blend. Let's go alpha hashed. And then back in the shader editor, you just grab this alpha value right here, and you can just like half that. And now you can actually see the track solid through there. So that's a nice little setup for compositing and being able to actually see how it's going to look with your footage there. So now we'll place in our 3D object or our 3D effect. And for this, I'm going to use my Director 3D plugin. It has a ton of different 3D objects and effects and things like that. Of course, you guys can go on the internet and just search for any 3D object you want to put in here. You can download a ton of them for free. If you do have the plugin, you can just click over here if you want to use one of these preset ones, which are pretty cool. So say we want something simple like a twinkle or something like that. We can put that here, click S and scale that up. And then you just want to click G and place this over top of the track solid. And again, this track solid here is exactly what we set up right there. So it's going to be in the same place in 3D space. So if I went to the camera view, went to timeline, and I click play, you can see how it's going to be tracked with our scene. So from here, you can just set it up how you want. You can animate the object if you want. So I can go here, animate the rotation, just get like a simple spin or something. 360, set a keyframe. Now we just have a simple spinning 3D object like that. And then I can change the material if I wanted to, use one of these preset materials. And again, make sure you add lighting. So if we go to the lighting view, you see everything's dark because there's no light. So you can Shift A and add in a light, or again, I'll just use Director 3D. I have these sort of presets, preset 3-point lighting, which is super useful. And then I can just go like this. Yeah, link to that will be on my website if you're interested. But here's what we're looking at. And if you want, you can go to Eevee, turn on Bloom just to get a nice fast render. So once you're ready to render this all out, you don't want to render out the footage here or the track solid. You only want the object. So you can either delete these, or if you want to keep them, you can disable in renders. So if we click here, disable in render, or again, just delete it. Doesn't really matter. You want to make sure you're exporting out with transparent background. So in your normal render settings, go to film, check on transparent, and then we can set up where we want to export this. So I'll go over to the output properties. Over here under output, just set up the folder that you want. So I'll make a new folder called render, and then click accept. Make sure RGB plus A so that you can render out with that external, with that transparent background. And then you just click render animation. So now this is going to render out with the 3D camera that we set up. And then once it's ready, all we have to do is drag it back into Blender and it should line up properly. All right, so once you have rendered that out, let's hop back into After Effects. And to bring that 3D asset into our normal footage, you just want to go over to your project bin, so right click, and we want to go to import multiple files. And then find wherever you save that. So for me, it was in this render folder. Just select the first frame, click import, and then click done. So here's what that's looking like. And we can go back to the composition that we were in, and we can just drag this in. So here it is. Just drag it in like that. And you're going to see it's not aligning with the footage here. So first we'll fit it to comp. And the reason why this isn't lined up in the perfect duration and not synced up is because the frame rate is mismatched. So if we look at this original footage here, we'll reveal it in the project, scroll this out. You can see right here, this is 25 frames per second. But this clip, just right here, is 30 frames per second. And that's because After Effects automatically imports every image sequence as 30 frames per second. So to fix that, just right click, go over to Interpret Footage Main, and then change this to whatever the frame rate of your footage is. So again, for me, it's 25. Now you'll see this is lining up properly. This bit, I just ended the render faster because it was cutting off the screen. But now you can see it's perfectly tracked with our camera. And we can just hide this track solid. And yeah, there you go. Extremely easy. A lot better than Element 3D in my opinion, because you have everything that Blender has to offer. And I mean, this is just a simple 3D object. You can go in there and fully add in full 3D effects, characters, whatever you want. For example, and say instead of a 3D object, I want to do like some sort of spinning titles for my song, my music video, whatever. So I can, again, I'm using Director 3D. You can look up any tutorial you want for this. I have these preset modifiers here. And then I can even go in and add different effects like drawn butterfly or whatever. And again, if you just look up different tutorials for Blender, you'll find a bunch of these. But for this one, I can literally just click and it's going to put in some butterflies, which is pretty cool. Bump this up so that the butterflies will wander a bit. And then once I like what I have here, I can just hide these in the render. And again, the exact same process. So yeah, have fun with it. I think that being able to add 3D into your workflow adds so many new things you can do with your editing. In my opinion, at this point, I think it's an essential skill for really just taking things to the next level and adding whatever it is that your mind wants into the video frame. Let me know if there's anything else you'd like to see. If you guys aren't subscribed to this channel yet, hit that subscribe button. We're doing a lot more shorter, easy guides. And other than that, as always, thank you so much for watching. Thank you so much for supporting, and I'll see you guys in the next one.